Good day. I didn't comb my hair out completely today. Oh, I am Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center. If you have any questions about this program, please call us at 549-3444. I've got that Ryan Seacrest look a little bit today. My hair is going this way and in the back, and I thought I'd just let it stay to see what you think of the new do. So anyhow, give me a call, let me know. Robert Silverstein, MD, 549-3444. I have a lot of information here that I want to go through today, just sort of, quote, as usual, quote. But anyhow, one of the first things I want to talk about is the drugs for erectile deficiency like Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra. These medications work on a particular enzyme that limits blood flow, affects blood flow, and the key chemical that is affected is nitric oxide. Now I want you to remember that, nitric oxide, because that's becoming a really hot topic. There is a new beta blocker that has come on the market by the name of Nebivolol, Nebivolol, and its trade name is Bistolic. I attended a conference on that, which was very interesting, in Los Angeles. And what I want to say is it has to do with nitric oxide. And cocoa or chocolate has to do with nitric oxide. And there are various other natural and medicinal compounds. By medicinal, I mean things like Cialis, Levitra, and so on. L-arginine is something that gives nitric oxide to the body. And all of that, nitroglycerin gives nitric oxide, but it turns out you cannot use Viagra when you're taking, or Cialis or Levitra, when you're taking nitroglycerin or Isodil or isosorbide dinitrate, which all fall under the category of nitrates because it can drop blood pressure too far, and that can be dangerous. So be careful if you know people who have nitroglycerin, because they are predisposed to what's called ED on television. You see it all the time, the ads for Viagra, Levitra, and Cialis. And they should not be, people who are using nitroglycerin or nitrates should not also be using these kinds of medications. But I just wanted to let you know that this is sort of a hot idea whose time has come. And it's not a fad, it's an important idea. That which increases nitric oxide tends to make blood vessels healthier. It tends to affect the immune system. It's against inflammation. And basically, this new beta blocker like Toprol or Coreg or Carvedilol or Metoprolol, whether it's low pressure or generic, those things now are being evaluated against this new drug which has come out. And the interesting thing about this new drug is that it has very few side effects akin to the class called angiotensin receptor blockers, which is a chemical for the compound for the treatment of high blood pressure, which in some ways is superior to the older generic forms of ACE inhibitors, ACEs and ARBs. Angiotensin receptor blocker, ARB, is a whole different class of medication, but does similar things and works near the same pathway, biochemical pathway, as do the ACE inhibitors, ACE inhibitors, angiotensin converting enzyme ACE inhibitors. And they're very helpful in preventing stroke. And the ARBs, maybe I should name some of these compounds. Monopril is an ACE, lisinopril is an ACE, Benicar is an ARB, Diovan is an ARB. Those are some of the, Atacand is an ARB, Micardis is an ARB, Acion is an ACE, Ramipril is an ACE, and so those are the compounds which are sort of vying off against each other. Now, one of the things the insurance companies are doing is they're making everybody go with the generics, and to a point, that's a good idea. But it is my firm belief that there is a superiority to the class of ARBs compared to ACEs. Now, there are many ACEs that are already generic, but there is not an ARB, and when there is an ARB, it's not going to be a very good one anyhow. There is not an ARB that is generic, and I think the insurance companies are making a mistake by forcing doctors to prescribe, in the fashion that they do, the ACEs over the ARBs. And the same thing goes for the cholesterol market. Now there is generic Zocor, which is called simvastatin, and that's to lower cholesterol. But Crestor and Lipitor are two forms of statin for lowering cholesterol medication, and you can take a much lower dose of those than you can for the generic Zocor. For instance, Zocor 80 milligrams is about equal to 40 milligrams of Lipitor, and 40 milligrams of Lipitor, actually it's about 35 milligrams of Lipitor, is equal to 10 milligrams of Crestor. And if you prescribe Crestor with Zetia, you can get away with like 5 milligrams of Zetia, very small pill, very small dose, a very small dose of the Crestor, 5 or 10 milligrams, with 5 or 10 milligrams of the Zetia, and you're taking much less in the way of medication. Now, one of the things that has not yet happened that really should happen is people ought to be able to go to their pharmacist and have these things mixed together so there's a reduced number of pills. People don't like taking 3, 4, and 5 pills, and that's part of the reason why you're seeing the new combinations like Azor, which is the combination of Benicar with generic Norvasc, or Exforge, which is the combination of Diovan with generic Norvasc. And of course, there always was generic Aldactazide, which is spironolactone hydrochlorothiazide, and that's 2 medications put together, and that's my usual choice of a diuretic. But the point being that there ought to be a way to get these medications together. There ought to be a little bit of a public outcry against what the insurance companies are forcing on physicians, such that they make it so uncomfortable for us to prescribe these truly better medications, like the new Azor, like Benicar, and they call it second tier and third tier as opposed to first tier. First tier has the lowest copay, second tier has a higher, considerably higher, and then the last tier is the third tier, and generally that's painful if you buy those drugs because of such a high copay.